Welcome to the Dacus Report, hosted by Pacific Justice Institute founder and president Brad Dacus. For 25 years, PJI has counseled, represented, and defended people whose religious freedoms, parental rights, or sanctity of life have been obstructed or violated, all free of charge. We leave no one behind and level the playing field for Americans as they are subjected to the tyranny of the powerful.
Hello, I want to welcome you to Brad Dacus Live. My name is Rocky Radcliffe. I help there at Pacific Justice Institute, and I have the opportunity to be able to host today while Brad is out of town, doing many, many great things across the nation. He does not stop. So I'm going to be filling in for him today. It's not going to just be a regular show, but we actually have a guest with us today. He actually works there at our office there in Texas, the state of Texas. Alejandro Sevallos. He is one of our great attorneys that we have working with us. Alejandro, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you so much for having me.
I kind of want to talk about a couple different things that are happening within Pacific Justice Institute. Not only that, but what's even happening there in the state that you live in, Texas. Are you from Texas? Did you grow up in Texas, or is that new to you?
No, it's home, East Texas specifically, the Houston and suburban area, but traveled all over the state my whole life as well during the summers.
Okay, so you are a native. You are a native. You're a Texan. Now, can you tell me a little bit about what maybe you have been involved in as a Pacific Justice Institute attorney there in Texas? I know there's different issues that maybe aren't making the national news, but they're still big and they're still important.
So in the state, we're starting to see a trend in the major cities. We're seeing a trend of people who are in these school boards and in these school districts that are pushing, I don't know what the science term is, but children to claim their a gender they're not.
Mm.
And this is a really big concern. Now, in other states, it empowers the child more than the parent, right? The Supreme Court declared almost 20 years ago that a parent has a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their child. And so it's kind of alarming that the state of Texas is noticing school boards are deliberately allowing literature to be accessible for students that is highlighting, sexuality. For so long, these were like scandalous courses that you took your senior year in high school. And now children at very young ages are being exposed to these things for the first time. I'll give you another example. There are certain organizations that public schools partner with third parties to give out surveys to students during homeroom, which is like a period where they're not learning. It's a chance for them to do their homework or to take a break from the demanding schedule. And on the survey are questions like, do you have any exotic piercings? Has anybody touched you in your genitals?
Wow.
And these are very, very private questions. And the school is claiming that they're doing this to protect the child, right? Children don't just run to school and say their parents are violating them. But parents still have the right to know what is in those surveys. And a lot of these third parties they delay giving a copy to the parents before the children sees it. And I think that some parents are feeling like they should be the first voice. Texas is kind of slow on those liberal progressive movements, and we're really starting to see it move a lot quicker, especially, like I said, in the major cities and in the towns that are college towns.
I want to dive more into, everything you said is so interesting because these are things again that we don't see. They're not on the national media, but it's there and it's happening right in front of you. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to go to a break right now. I want to thank you for tuning in so far. It's been an amazing time with Alejandro Sevallos, and he's our attorney there at our office in Texas, and he has so much more to share with us, so much more insight of what's taking place there in Texas. So we'll be back with you momentarily.
Is God speaking to me? Is this the voice of the Lord or just my own thoughts? We've all wondered at times how to discern His voice and direction. Lisa Turkhurst shares with you her own struggles, and through scripture, personal stories, and practical application, She'll help you learn to recognize and respond to God's call using 5 key questions to discern if a message is really from Him. Is God Speaking to Me? A book by Lisa Turkhurst is our gift this February for any donation of $10 or more. Yes, help His channel broadcast the good news of Jesus Christ 24 hours a day. Become a partner today and make salvation possible for the lost. Visit hischannel.com and click the donation link, or send your tax-deductible gift to His Channel, P.O. Box 25, Santa Ana, California, 92702.
Hello and welcome you back to Brad Dacus Live. My name is Rocky Radcliffe. I have the opportunity of guest hosting today, and it's been an amazing show so far. We have our attorney from Texas, all the way from Texas. He's joining us on Zoom, Alejandro Sevallos. Alejandro, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, it's been a great time so far, Alejandro, and you have shared some very insightful things that are taking place there in the state of Texas, the great state of Texas that many of us do love and respect. As you mentioned, it is a traditional state, but there is some things that we're seeing internally that you're sharing about.
Something that I've seen that we haven't really discussed yet was the grievance process with a school board. A lot of parents, and it doesn't matter if it's a Republican dominant school board, a Democrat dominant school board. The school board is like a fraternity or a sorority. And so if the superintendent or the school does something that violates a parental right, or a group of parents, just even if it doesn't violate a parental right, but a group of parents says this is wrong, they hear it. They hear the grievance. And it really does come down to the electoral process, and that's an issue. And I remember Ken Starr once said in his book, and he's a famous lawyer, former federal judge on religious liberty, and he said, if you really want to make one of the biggest difference civilly, run for school board.
Wow.
And I thought that was interesting. He didn't say become a pastor where you can influence a group of people and you're under the anointing of Christ because he's speaking through you on that platform. He didn't say an attorney who can step in the gap between a person asserting the rights and justice. He didn't say the president of the United States who protects our country from domestic and foreign terrorism. No, he said a school board. And it goes with what you just said, Mr. Radcliffe. If we can get into the children, then we have an entire generation. And I think that right there, I think every town hall meeting I've been to, I'm constantly training parents how to go through the school board grievance process. And they're actually training me as well. They're telling me they can write letters immediately to the attorney general, and they have friends on the inside who can get that school board to react quickly. But it's a power trip between the school board and the superintendent. The superintendent's their agent, and then the attorney general. But the attorney general has so many issues before him. So that's something that I would say parents need to be mindful of. If you have a child in school, that's what makes you a parent, right? From infancy to 18, you're always their mother and father in morality and in spirit. But where you really are their guardian is those years. And so school is a really important thing. And so I think that they should be more informed on how to go through that process. Because let me tell you something. Every judge all across the country is going to say to a parent, did you go through the grievance process first? And the reason why is that goes back to what you said earlier when you were in school learning about the way the country was founded. Our Constitution is a democracy. And so we have to engage in the democratic process before we can just rush to the judicial branch. And so that is huge. And I think parents need to be aware that they're going to get pushback. They're going to feel like they're seen and not heard. They're going to get their time cut off. So have your speeches, know the rules, carry the rules with you when you go into these school board grievance processes or meetings. Because if you don't, then when you're filming, you won't know what to film. You won't know, oh, that's a violation. They can't do that. Now I have a case if they keep this
Mm.
up. So those are the things that we educate, like know the grievance process, know when you go to speak at a school board, how much time it's going to happen, what are the rules, what paperwork you have to submit. A lot of times the school board and superintendents will just say, oh, go online, educate yourself. So, and we know that they can do that, but that's a power dynamic again, that's gatekeeping.
Now, Alejandro, I know you're not just involved in a couple things in Texas, but you are involved in a lot of our cases, and you're helping fight for a lot of different things that are taking place in Texas. I know there's a couple of different cases that maybe we want to touch on. I know there's one where I think we're currently assisting a nurse with workplace discrimination. Maybe tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that shouldn't have happened. It's a major hospital, Memorial Hermann. It's famous in the state of Texas, specifically in the medical center, which is the largest medical center in the world. Um, she missed the deadline to be vaccinated with the flu vaccine by 1 day. She's from a foreign country, but she's truly American at heart. She's a strong Christian, and there was a language barrier when she was getting emails about what the deadline was to be vaccinated. She read an acronym FY, not as fiscal year, but as full year. So when she got hired in January, but the fiscal year ended in the summer. And so she needed to get revaccinated, but she thought she was good for the whole year. Well, she missed the deadline.
Wow.
And they fired her. They terminated her for that. There was really no in the phrase that courts use is the interactive process, which is like you engage with the person you're firing before you just fire them. Like you have to make a good faith effort if they declare religious accommodation. And so we did the deposition. And so at this point in the stage, the settlement is where we're at. We're at a settlement argument, whether or not the back pay is enough and it's fair. And so our client is still working with the hospital on a fair settlement. And if not, we are scheduled for trial, and then a jury will decide what our client deserves based on that.
That's awesome. And I appreciate the diligence that, we're stepping in, we're helping. That's what we do, obviously, at Pacific Justice Institute. We do it for free, right? We're not charging that woman anything. She's not having to bend over backwards to try to figure out how she's going to be able to be taken care of. But that's what we do at Pacific Justice Institute. That's the vision, the mission that God gave our founder, Brad Dacus. And that's what we're living in. That's what we're walking, and we're walking in faith as people give and provide. That really helps us fuel our mission.
I think this is the biggest one we're working on right now is there's several Jewish professors, a very large group of Jewish professors, a large group of Jewish students who have felt anti-Semitic treatment at a large university in the state of Texas that is very connected to so many different foreign industries and foreign religions around the North Texas area. And so we've been gathering an alarming amount of evidence that is targeting this group of people. And so we're going through the Texas Public Information Act process, where we're trying to retrieve information to show the treatment that is discriminatory. So it's a Title VI case. That's the way it would go. But right now we're just in the very, very early stages of dealing with we need information, and they're saying, well, we're not going to give it to you because your lawyers wrote us a letter. And so we're trying to get through all that. So it's another thing. There are some students who are trying to go to class and they don't feel safe because people are telling them, they don't belong here. And you see a lot of this in campuses like UCLA and campuses up north, like Northwestern. So to see it here at UNT, that goes back to what I said earlier. A lot of people assume Texas is a certain way, but the college cities, the college towns, the major cities, that's where we're seeing a lot of this, like pretty much anti-American stuff. And why is this an issue for us? Freedom of speech and freedom of religion. It's foundational to higher education. It's also foundational to public entities.
I know I think that's key and foundational to public education, higher education, but to our country as well, just to our identity as a country. And I think the anti-Semitic behavior, I think you can agree with this, is it's not starting now. It has been creeping in these past 10 to 15 years, just slowly, inch by inch. People trying to say that the Holocaust was a hoax. There's so many things that have just been trying to take place to really, I guess, start brewing, right? What we're seeing really begin to strongly take place today. You weren't seeing too many halls being lit on fire 10 years ago, but there were minor things that were beginning to take place, and now we're seeing the fruit of it. We're seeing so much taking place, like what you were sharing, what you were saying. And so I agree with you, Alejandro. I agree with you that um, these are things that we have to pay attention to. These are things that we have to look at. We cannot just shrug it away. We can't just say, well, it's going to get dealt with, but these are things that we need to pray for. These are things that we need to be actively advocating for. Maybe you could just share your heart. I know you work with us and you're attorney in PGI, but I want you to be able to feel free to be honest, be open in regards to your opinion. What do we need? Because I know we're going to be wrapping up here. What do we need to see take place today in America? In Texas, maybe you could even go in depth about, but even nationwide, what do we need to see take place with those that say, man, I am conservative and I do want to stand up for our values and traditions? Maybe not even just conservative, but I'm a Christian in general, and I believe in God's word and I believe in what God has said.
Well, there are two steps. I think one, embody what you preach. So if these truly are your beliefs, then enforce them. Don't, if you're at the lunch table and somebody makes a comment about, I don't know, Christianity or Israel or parental rights or homosexuality or whatever, you are allowed during lunch to speak up in those moments. Also, I think something as simple as going to work on time, and then when people see you're missing from work because of a Christian holiday, that speaks volumes. In fact, I remember working in the marketplace for a while, and I felt like nobody really acknowledged Jesus's presence in my life. So you think, all right, what's it gonna hurt if I join them for a couple of happy hours and stuff like that? And then they ask you, hey, you normally don't come, and you find out they've been watching you the whole time.
Hmm.
So we need to start stepping up. If you're a teacher, if you're a fireman, if you're a police officer, right? The church is not four walls on a Sunday for a few hours or a couple of community get-togethers throughout the week. The church is people. And so for us to actually see change in the government, in the medical field, to really truly shape culture as a Christian, we have to bring the light into wherever we're at. And so I pray for my clients. If they say something far off what we believe at PGI, I kind of like guide them back. Um, at the end of the day, we all have influence, whether we believe it or not. If you're a parent, you influence your children. If you're a spouse, you influence your spouse, right? If you're an older sibling, if you're a young adult, you influence your parents because there are things that don't reach them because they're not in the demographic to be reached by mass marketing. We all have influence and we all have duties. And so I would say that. And then I think the second step is to educate yourself, get more informed, vote for sure, right? I mean, voting is one way we get to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Inform yourself on what's happening. I mean, I'm an attorney and I still feel like there's stuff I need to inform myself on more about my state and about my country and about what Christians are going through around the world. Is we're never going to know it all. There's always room to learn more. And if you know anybody who's a lawyer or in law school, please tell them about Pacific Justice Institute. We need more lawyers in Texas, and we just need more people who have this mindset of, I don't necessarily need to go to law school, to do 1,000 cases a year and make a lot of money. I can actually make a difference, right? And I'm not saying they don't make a difference. There's a place for the person who writes a will, right? I mean, Proverbs says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. But what we do at PGI specifically, it really is a lot of work. And I think more people who have that legal training, if you know lawyers and if you know law students, please tell them about us. And we'd love to talk with them and just tell them how they can help.
I love that. And I love that. And there's a couple key things you said. We need to step it up. And that's what we have to do. The enemy is not far behind. Obviously, like we said, if we're going to say that we do believe that Christ died on the cross and he rose on the third day, and then we believe there is a spiritual warfare. And if we believe there's a spiritual warfare, then we believe that it happens first in the spiritual realm and then it bleeds into the physical. It's not vice versa. It doesn't happen in the physical, then it affects the spiritual. No. In fact, what when we're on our knees and we're fighting the spiritual war, we're praying and we're following God's word and his direction, things take place in the spiritual. What's bound up in heaven is, it's bound up on earth and vice versa. And so I totally agree with you on that. And even like you said, we're always open here at Pacific Justice for those that want to jump on board, that want to help, even lawyers, because that's what we're doing. We're fighting here at Pacific Justice. As you know, Alejandro, we're not cherry picking cases, right? We are not cherry picking cases. We don't just say, well, if this one's going to the Supreme Court, then it's ours. If not, see you later, Sally. That is not us. That is not us. I appreciate the heart of our founder, Brad Dacus. And I don't just say it because I'm here on his show, but I'm saying it sincerely. Having a personal relationship with him, knowing him, being able to talk with him. He really is somebody that does want to help people. His heart is for people, just as yours is as well, Alejandro's. You want to help people. You want to be able to help, and that's our goal, and that is our mission, is to advance the kingdom. It's to advance the kingdom. That's to build God's kingdom. And I appreciate you throwing that out to people, because if people ever do need us, we're one call away. We're one call or one email away, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to help fight the battles that other people cannot fight, help fight the battles that other people can't, because we have the legal expertise. And so I just want to say, man, it has been an absolute blessing being able to be on the show with you today, Alejandro. It has been great. Maybe tell us in the next minute, what are you preparing for? What's next? I know you have a lot on your plate, but what is next for you in these coming months? Is there any cases? I know you can't go into too much depth, but is there any cases that maybe are brewing, anything that we're looking at doing in the state of Texas in the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I think this year we're just mostly looking more for parental rights in the schools. Yeah, that's something that is really on our heart to capitalize on. So.
No, and I love that. And I love that. And you said something key earlier, and I don't want to forget that. Was his name Kim Starr?
Yes, Ken Starr.
Ken Starr. You said that he said, okay, how do you make an impact? Like you said, not running for president. It's not just becoming a pastor, right? Those are things that we would typically assume. But he said running for school board. I love that. I love that quote. And that is a powerful, powerful quote. And I pray that whoever is listening now, they feel impacted by that. They feel inspired by that. And they know, you know what? How am I going to make an impact? Then I'm going to step into the schools, my children's schools. I'm going to begin to advocate. I'm going to begin to fight for our young people, because what they learn today, what they inherit today, what they take in today, what they soak in today, right? Prayerfully, it's not the drag queens at story time, nor is it the kitty litter, but it's God's words, God's foundational principles. What they soak in today, they're going to live out tomorrow. So I just want to say I appreciate you, Alejandro, for everything that you're doing here in Pacific Justice Institute. May God continue to strengthen you and be with you. And I'm excited to do another show with you, hopefully soon.
All right. Thank you, guys.
God bless. Thank you for joining in today. It has been an amazing, amazing show with Alejandro Sevallos, our attorney there in Texas for Pacific Justice Institute. Thank you for joining in today. Continue to join in for Brad Dacus Live as we discuss different national reports and everything that is taking place across the country and within Pacific Justice Institute. Continue to join us as we fight for your freedoms.
We would love the opportunity to continue to serve you. Just visit pji.org and click the Legal Insider button to sign up for our email newsletter. At PJI, we help individual employees, employers, business owners, pastors, students, citizens of every stripe through our practical resources, counsel, representation, and defense, all free of charge at pji.org. PJI is an island of stability and assurance in our ever-churning sea of legal and societal chaos. We are here for you.
So folks, just remember, it's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.